Yeah, you
right.
could. Yeah.
Well, yeah, my name's Khaleel Seivwright, and I guess I'm gonna just be talking about, yeah, just things I sort of witnessed and experienced, and what I think um, a good solution, or at least some sort of solution to some things I noticed would be. And yeah, I don't know. I guess everyone knows I was like building tiny shelters 2 years ago for people staying outside, and that's like something. Yeah, I just came across people staying outside in parks, just seeing like so many people staying in tents. It was just surprising to me how many people were living outside. I just never seen that many people in Toronto staying outside, just in parks everywhere. And I figured, oh yeah, this is a cool thing that I could do. That would be able to help someone. And like I built the original one for myself actually, because I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to use that at some point as well. But if someone else needed it, that's also cool. That would be a really nice thing. And
How long did it take you to build the first one?
that was about 2 days.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like
Wow.
a weekend, and I just got a generator and had all this material on the roof of my car, and I drove into the Don Valley and just like found like a secluded spot and just like carried all this stuff into the bush and just like and just built it. Yeah, that was really really fun. And yeah, and then yeah, sort of ran into that intense friction from the city, and I was not very aware of what things are in place for people that are staying outside, and yeah, what was actually available. I wasn't aware of that at all when I started working. It was just a reaction to seeing people outside, but sort of after interacting with quite a few people around that issue, it became so clear that there was not enough space, and there continues to not be enough space for people. Summer, winter, it doesn't matter what time of the year. There's just not enough shelter space for people. And then the experiences people talk about having in shelters is also very. It just sounds like a place that doesn't promote building mental health. It's like you go there to have traumatic experiences and hopefully continue to stay in a bed. And if you get into the wrong interaction with staff or you break certain rules, it's like you lose your ability to survive, basically. So it's yeah, not a very well functioning system, just from the standpoint of like providing for people, not even to mention how much it costs, like how ineffective it is in terms of expense. It's yeah, just how much the city has been spending on the shelter hotels goes into the millions. There's an article out recently talking about how the city was charged $13 million in excess. It was overcharged by one of the hotels that it secured a contract with for the shelter hotel, and this was completely missed by the city staff paying for the shelter hotel. So it's like, I don't know, there's an ongoing situation of just inefficient use of resources, and I think in light of this, I don't know, there's a different way going forward, or there's alternatives going forward that would definitely be more effective than a shelter hotel. I think not to say that they're not needed, and not to say that like, yeah, we need more emergency shelter instead of affordable housing, more affordable housing. I think both of those things are definitely necessary, but one option that sort of came up to me that is in existence in Kitchener is yeah, a model, an intentional community model that yeah, that's being executed by a group called A Better Tent City in Kitchener. I guess I should look at the camera.
If you want.
That one's the live stream one.
There are also like 3 going,
Yeah.
so you have
Well, I
options.
guess that's kind of hard. I'll continue looking at my feet. But yeah, there's a group in Kitchener called A Better Tent City, and yeah, they've been operating for about 2.5 years, and basically started with a woman named Nadine Green who owned a convenience store, and she just saw people staying outside and said, cool, like, you can stay in my convenience store at night, and that's fine. And it wasn't fine. with the neighbors, and it eventually became a serious problem for her, and she actually lost her convenience store because of it after a year. Yeah, and I guess she was with all these people trying to find a place for them to be, and they eventually got into contact with someone named Ron Doyle, who owned a business, and I don't even know what he was manufacturing, but he had a large industrial lot that he just said, you guys can move here, and like that's totally fine. And he let them stay in his on his industrial space, and they sort of established resources for people to stay there. And eventually Jeff Wilmer joined their team as well, who's a really awesome character, and he worked with the city council in Kitchener for 17 plus years as I forget his exact position, but he worked closely with city council, and I guess with the cooperation of him and Ron Doyle and Nadine, they were able to secure a lot owned by the school board to house these people, and they built just small cabins, 50 cabins on this city-owned property, and they're still in existence today, and people are still being housed, and they've been able to just build a community there and like have consistent shelter, but not just consistent shelter, also consistent community and consistent connections with people that they trust. And I think that's a really significant aspect of why that works so well for people. Yeah, and it's cheap. It's like it costs about $10 to $15 a day per person in comparison to a shelter hotel, which is about $300 per day. So I think, yeah, a model that gives people autonomy, that lets you have respect, self-respect. You're given this sense of like you are a human being, and you will have the ability to decide what you sort of want in your space, and how do you want the space that you live in to be operated. Like they get to participate in that, and I think that's really significant in terms of improving mental health and improving your own abilities to manage responsibility by being given responsibility. And I think that's something that's really lacking in Toronto's shelter system, where you're sort of treated as a prisoner more so, and it's like you're allowed to have 2 bags, no pets, and you have a curfew, and people come into your room at night to check if you're alive, like randomly, and it's like there's this invasion of privacy. You're sort of, I don't know, you're treated as if they're just waiting for you to do something to get kicked out. Like you're not responsible for anything. You just get to have the privilege of existing in this space until you can. And I don't know, and just that so you have the shelter system that you can participate in, and then, or hopefully, or you can stay outside in a tent and, be harassed by police, be violently harassed by police, and move from place to place, or you can hopefully even less likely get into affordable housing. I guess there's a long list for that, and it seems like a very impossible situation in terms of dealing with homelessness. So I think building communities like a Better Tent City that can go up very quickly and are able to effectively house people for a long period of time, and also are places people want to be in. I think this is a really effective way of at least attempting to fight homelessness, to find places where people want to be in. And I really support it. And so I guess, that comes to the stuff, the thing that I'm working on now, which is indirectly contributing to that ideal, to that model, is I'm starting a business building camper trailers, and the idea is to build these camper trailers and sell them, and use this business as a source of funding for a Better Tent City, to be able to continuously fund them. Because the way that they're operating right now, they're completely based on donations. So, and that's sort of inconvenient if those donations were to somehow stop coming in, and then their project would have to be reduced in some way. So I thought it would be a really great idea to have a sustainable source of funding for them, and to also do something I really enjoy doing, which is designing super well insulated things and building them. Like I love that. It's just fun. Yeah. So I guess that's what I'm doing. It's called fatdroptrailers. I love that. And I mean, yeah, we're calling it fatdroptrailers sort of in reference to teardrop trailers being like super lightweight and small, but we're building trailers in a way it's just steel stud, foam, and fiberglass, so there's no like heavy plywood sheathing. And this is getting into specifics, but you end up being able to build something as light as a teardrop, but much larger, so you have much more space. So hence fatdrop. So that's what I'm working on now, and hopefully it goes well, and we're able to continuously give a better tent city funding. And I guess the idea is to work with people in Toronto as well to try to create communities like a better tent city in Toronto itself, because we need it so much more as well. We just need it. There just needs to be more alternatives than getting someone with a nightstick and cutting their tent city. It's like there's no part of that as a solution to anything. It's just a waste of resources completely. A waste of effort and resources to cause trauma. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, yeah, I'm hoping to be a part of at least one alternative to that. I don't know. Yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what do you see are any barriers to that right now? Like you're talking about how the city's already putting so much money into this, and it's just the resources aren't going to the right place, and the police are not really on our side. So it doesn't really seem to be helping. So, like, what are the actual?
Can you speak up a bit? I can't even hear you.
So, yeah, what are the actual barriers to getting this done when clearly the city already wants or is acting as though they want to solve homelessness problems?
Well, I mean, there's a few zoning barriers in place that make it hard to find a site. That's fine with housing people, but I mean, there is zoning that exists where you can have something called an SRO, which is a single room occupancy like living situation, which is what this would be. Like there is zoning that allows that, but just finding property to do it on and finding a willing property owner is a barrier. And also finding a team that's willing to manage the site in a different way than how the shelter system does. So I think those are the two barriers, and right now I'm working with an architect named John Van Nostrand who, well, I guess he has a design that is mostly approved by the city, but it's just a matter of finding a group that's willing to manage the site and also finding the location, it seems like, to being able to actually create this community. So, yeah, those seem to be the main areas. Yeah. And I guess also, no matter where you put a community like this, there's going to be like resistance from neighbors, because everyone's down for homeless people to be housed, but no one wants that to happen near them. Yeah. So it's like, cool, like, thanks for your consideration.
And what type of environment is necessary? Like how big of a space and any other necessities?
Specifically, like a community like this is actually, I feel like it would operate better on a smaller scale for the sake of building community, but a better tent city has about 50 units. So there's like 50 people staying there, and their community seems to be functioning pretty well. And they have like one structure for showers and laundry and washrooms, and they also have a communal building and a kitchen, and that seems to work pretty well. And I think, I'm not sure the exact square footage of their site, but literally like from this washroom to that road and from that tree to the fence, smaller than that.
Okay, so we're talking like approximately a football field, maybe a little less?
Yeah, a little less. And that's able to house 50 people for less than $15.
Yeah, so that's efficient.
Yeah.
So a better tent city only exists in Kitchener right now.
Right now, and I mean, there's other communities like that all over North America. I don't know about anywhere else in the world really, but like, there's one community I really like called Opportunity Village in Oregon, and they seem fucking awesome. I love it.
Like, what's their model?
Their model is very similar to a better tent city, where they have many cabins, but they also it's sort of built like a co-op, so the residents pay rent, but they also, by paying rent over and over again, they get a share of the community. So if they ever decide to leave, they get something back as well. So it's like they are really the owners of it as well, and security responsibilities are given to them, maintenance responsibilities are given to the residents, and it's like it's an intentional community run by the residents. So there's another community in Calgary that houses just veterans in a similar way, and another community in Whitehorse as well, very similar to that one. I don't know the details of that, but those are the two communities I know of in Canada. But I think there's more popping up. There's definitely more groups trying to build something very similar all over the country, and I think it's just a matter of time before this becomes a very common thing. Any other questions? I mean, that's fine.
Well, like, no, please. I already asked a question. All you.
Okay. No, I'm just like curious, like you starting this business as a way of like I'm a business owner, and the way I started with my business is very different, but I have always seen how my business can be turned into a platform for something else. And I'm just curious how you are seeing that business growing to support a community. It's very interesting for me because I would love to like transform my business into something like that.
I guess I sort of see. I mean, at the most basic level, we can use a portion of the money that we make from building and selling trailers just to pipeline it right into the community for the things that they need, like on a daily basis. But also because we're going to be building and designing, we're going to have lots of materials like left over, so that's something we can also do. And we can also like just build things for communities as well. And we were thinking that something else that we can do is just building trailers to donate directly instead of giving them money as well, depending on what works for the community. So there's a few different ways that we thought that we could participate in helping out and helping create a community. And just the funding is just one part. But I mean, in the future, I don't know, it could definitely branch out into other things I can't even imagine.
How do people get involved, or how have people got involved so far?
So far we're just in the designing stage, and I mean we're just about finished the design. We're going to be hopefully building in like the next 2 weeks, depending on getting clients. In terms of getting involved, we could use funding to buy bulk materials to get started. But other than that, when we start building, I guess there's many people that reached out to like volunteer and come help build, and that seems really exciting to me because I love building science and I like sharing all the things that I've learned just getting into it. So that's definitely something that we can do as well.
Who's a part of your team now, like in terms of like the people who are definitely going to be there through like every part of the process?
So far it's a very small team. It's mainly just me and this guy named Robert Rayner, who worked with Toronto Tiny Shelters. He came and volunteered quite a bit. He's an architecture student, and we've been going over the design and just hashing it through and figuring out the price of all the materials and all the accessories that we're going to be putting inside of it. There's also an architect, her name is Anya Morissef, I'm saying her last name, but she's also going to be helping out with getting designs made, and also with just having ideas for different models, and also with like filming the build and filming different aspects of it for promotional materials. So she's helping out quite a bit. She also might be letting us use her 2-car garage to build in, but I have to see it to see if we can do that first. But that's definitely awesome if that works out, because right now we don't have a permanent location for the winter. We just have a 3-season sort of location to build at. So it'd be nice to find a permanent location.
Right, so you need like a location that's big enough to build trailers in for the winter?
Yeah, which is like, it doesn't have to be big at all. Literally like 1,000 square feet.
Indoors though.
Yeah.
For the winter,
Yeah.
But that's good to have in mind.
Yeah. it seems fun.
I mean, I really am attracted to the idea of creating more like co-op style communities, like as opposed to just. I mean, there's even co-op housing and things like that, but it's not quite the same that I've seen in Toronto as people actually getting together to really genuinely contribute to the shaping of the space and the way things are run. I think that's a different level of, like you said, responsibility. And I think I've been talking a long time about how, there's a lot in this culture about like teens going through a rebellious phase and whatnot, right? And I think like, a lot of us have this rebellious spirit, rebellious phases that we go through. It seems like a lot of that comes from testing unfairness or testing things that you don't understand or have full feeling of, a full commitment to, and you try to push those boundaries to see like what is the real validity and foundation of this. And so I feel like when people really understand the purpose behind things, they're much less likely to want to break it down. Like, you don't want to tear up the tree when you're swinging on it and when it's providing you apples, right? You don't want to go against the system. You actually had a part of building it. You understand the mechanism of it and the value of it. So that's something that's really attractive to me.
And I mean that also brings up the fact that like, yeah, I don't know. They're also not like perfect. I guess. Like, there's lots of stealing that happens in these communities. There's lots of, or not a lot, but like it definitely happens. And there's like some like violent interactions for sure that also happen. But it's sort of like you don't just get kicked out for these things. You have to sit down and talk about it. You have to like look the person in the eye. You have to eat breakfast with this person. And sort of like, you have to figure out a way to continue to live together. So it's interesting, yeah. And even from going to encampments and like dropping off shelters for people, they already had community. They were building community around each other, and they had systems in place to like protect each other and to like help each other out, and also to like take care of like, okay, there's someone that's in this community that's like a threat to people. Like, how do we deal with that? They figured out ways to deal with that on their own, and while living in tents. So it's like if you give them more resources, I'm sure like it would be. It's possible. It already works in different places. So it's just a good way to do it.
Yeah, clearly it's more efficient for the resources too. I mean, clearly giving people the ability to take care of themselves is more efficient than giving police batons and guns and whatnot to come in and try to outside regulate and go inside knowledge of situations like that.
And also paying for staff to like clean your unit, clean everything, and also go in and check on you to see if you're asleep, or to see if you're alive in the middle of the night, and like different things just to keep track of people going in and out of places. There's so many staff that get paid just to monitor people in the shelter systems. That doesn't seem to be necessary in the community setting. So yeah.
It's almost like treating them like children, as if like they can't actually do anything for themselves.
Yeah,
just keeps them in the system that continues.
And it doesn't encourage you to be able to do things for yourself.
Yeah.
It just gives the notion of being really profit-centric too. We're talking about being underfunded to provide necessities, and now along with the necessities, you have to spend 2-3 times as much money as you do on food and housing, on staffing and monitoring, and it starts to be like, you could buy food with that literally, and it starts to be very obvious, right?
And I think a lot of that has to do with I don't know. The city's approach, I think, is really focused on liability and just doing everything they can to make sure that they will not be held responsible for negative outcomes. And it's not necessarily for the benefit of the people, but for the definite, like making sure their ass is covered. And I guess if someone's sleeping in a tent and it burns down, it's like they're not necessarily responsible for that. But if you're living in a building that they staff and something happens, they are. But even then, I guess they're not held accountable for quite a few things in shelters. So it's interesting the way resources get used. Yeah.
Well, it just kind of sounds like in the shelter system, they really aren't doing anything to fight the stigmatization of homelessness, and from the sounds of it, are just kind of buying into the whole thing, you know, like monitoring them, taking away their privacy, treating them like children, like they can't be responsible for themselves. And you know, that I think that's definitely, if you're going to have staff like that, like maybe not monitoring the community but helping them take care of it, they need to understand the communities itself a bit better instead of just treating it like this outside thing that they're not really a part